So we're going to probably start in just a couple minutes, and there's going to be a lot of you listening and us talking today just because of the short time that we have. But feel free to put questions in the chat. We're going to try and address those. And also, you always know that you can follow up. You'll see in the room right now, I'm here, Karen's here, and Mary Hamilton's here. We're all from the water team. And we have Corey Brooks here from Text Help. She is our liaison and extraordinaire. So we can, lean on her when the questions are above and beyond what we can do here just in West Contra Costa. So we're super excited that you're here. And I think we should just start. And Karen will continue to let people in. And then Mary, you can keep an eye on the chat. All right. So I just introduced myself. I think most of you know me. I'm Sandy Oliver, and Corey just waved her hand. She's over there in one of the squares. And we're really excited to be here this fall because for the first time in the many years that I've been advocating for the Read and Write Toolbar, we actually have it on the school domain. And so that means that you don't have to email me students that you want to add, and we don't have to do it one by one. This also includes all students in Gen Ed, any program that if they're using a WCC Schools Google account, they have the premium toolbar. And just last Friday, we also bought Orbit Note. So we also have the Orbit Note. So we have the PDF program extension that is going to allow us to do a lot more with PDFs. So you're here today. Corey and I have kind of laid out a 3-part workshop. So this is number 1. We have another one coming up on, I think it's October 26th, where we're going to get into some more tools. This is going to be a more basic one. So some of you that I recognize your faces, this might be like a workshop that you could probably give, but hopefully you'll learn a couple new gems. And then there'll be a workshop number 3 on November 15th. And that we're going to try and talk more about the Orbit Note extension and PDFs. And if we need to sprinkle in some stuff in between that, we'll be doing that. So let's see, you want to go to the second slide? What am I doing? I think that's it. That's the introduction. So we decided for today to just really focus on the most powerful strategies or tools is the reading and the writing. Those we feel like so many students have challenges, either they're reading, below grade level, or they have dyslexia or different things, so many different issues with reading. And we're constantly working on ways to get our reading scores and abilities up, and then the written output, just getting students to write more, to embellish on their writing more, to add more details. So anything that can help with that. So we're kind of keeping those 2 lenses for today. There's lots of other things that the toolbar does, but we're kind of putting some boundaries on how far we're going to go with the toolbar today.
For sure. Okay. So just a little intro on me. My name is Corey Brooks. I live in San Diego. I was a teacher for over 13 years down here in project-based learning, blended learning, charter schools, and traditional public schools. And I am so excited to be at Text Help because our tool really is very connected to universal design for learning. And that for me has always been a passion, being able to make sure that all students have access to content regardless of what their struggles are in school, everything we can and cannot see, right? All those traumas that maybe we don't see and they don't let us see. And there's some ways that we can work around that. And I think universal design for learning is one of those access points for students. So just making sure that we're engaging the why, the what, and the how of learning, and making sure that there's different representations for all of our different learning variabilities in the classroom. So I just want to give you a heads up on that, because that's one of the main excitements about going unlimited for a district, is that all students have access. Just a little bit about UDL and barriers. We want to make sure that our classrooms are definitely diverse in how we're presenting information. And there's a lot around barriers with universal design for learning and talking about, well, what are barriers? And if we have one design choice in the classroom that's a novel and it's paperback, then, that's only fitting the learning needs of, a very small number maybe of our students. And so there's ways that we can lower those barriers in order to make sure that all of our students are learning in the best way that they need to learn. A little bit about universal design and differentiated instruction. If we're working with both of these, we're kind of coming from the front and then, reassessing and making sure that we're really differentiating on the other end. So it's a spectrum. We are obviously very connected to MTSS. We are a tier 1 support. The toolbar definitely can be used for all learners, and in different ways, again, whichever ways work best for them. So we are definitely considered a tier 1 support. CCEE, if you guys want to learn more about universal design for learning, I know West Contras definitely has it in their sites. So we work closely with the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence, and we're creating recordings of videos that work with UDL and other areas of education like ELLs, MTSS, equity, SELs, all those educational acronyms. And we're going to be sharing this slide deck at the end of the training, and probably, we can revisit each week or whatever. But if you want to click, there's a ton of links in here and a ton of information. I know I'm going quick, but it's because we want to make sure that we have as much learning time as possible with the toolbar itself. So just know that this is all in here for you to peruse and a ton of resources for you to dive into later. This is that ELL slide deck. Obviously, California is huge with ELLs, in San Diego. Not only did I go to school with students who would bus over from Ducati, in my classroom, I had students who would bus over from Tijuana to come to school. So, we have just a ton of different EL students, and how are we supporting them? And I think the toolbar is one of those ways. Okay, so we know that we're not doing an interactive training today because of our time crunch, but in this slide deck as well is a workflow. Kind of, this is how you get the toolbar on your computer. But Sandy, you're saying this has been pushed out to everybody already, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's been pushed out to students. So all of the students in the district have Read and Write for Google Chrome. They've always had it, but now it's premium. And we pushed out the Orbit Note extension maybe a week ago Friday. Teachers, I'm trying to push it out, and staff, but I don't know if it has come out yet. So if someone in the chat has seen anything appear on their in their Chrome browser as an extension. But the links are here. And then I actually didn't realize they were here. I made another slide at the end because you're going to want to add these 3 extensions if you don't have all 3. You don't need to do it now, but you want to have these tools in your toolkit.
Perfect. And again, this will be here, and then you get it twice. Sandy and I are making sure you have all you need. Okay. Just a little kind of on the forefront is that we do work in Google Slides, Google Docs, Chrome the Chrome websites, and then so one of the things that you need to know is that sometimes the permissions on those different platforms allow us to put some icons and features on the toolbar and some don't. So these are very similar, but there are a little bit of differences. So with Google Slides, you're going to get that voice notes, or Google Docs. And actually this is old because Google Slides just added voice notes. So that is there, but you'll also have Check It and Google Docs. And so you see just a little bit of difference, but not too much. And there is this for the Chrome web page, which I'm going to be working through with you. There's this little icon that you can move the text help toolbar anywhere you want, or that Read and Write. And as we're moving forward, I'm going to be doing the reading portion, and Miss Sandy is going to be working through the writing portion and the output portion with you guys. These are some questions I like to kind of put in our brains before we start to access learning. And it's really about what icons on the toolbar are you most interested in? How can you see the icon being used in the classroom? How can you integrate the toolbar into what you are already doing to enhance student learning? And then what are you still curious about? And because this is a series, these are really great, questions to think about as we're working through. And if you want to jot down, what are you still curious about, those types of things, we will have an exit slip at the end. And so with that, let's get started. Whoops, sorry. There we go. Actually, Sandy, do you want to intro this little section here? I know I'm throwing this back to you, but just like, oh, actually, this is mine. Okay, so here's what we're going to be doing. Right away, I'm just going to show you how to access the extension. Since you have it unlimited, it should be pushed out, but I'm going to show you how to go to Chrome, how to stick it on there, and then where it's going to lay in your computer or on your computer. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the different settings and how you can work through that. And that's going to be all before we get into the actual reading part. So if I'm, say, in slides, I'm going to come right up here to this toolbar, this extension toolbar, and I'm going to try and find this read and write puzzle piece here. This is also the orbit note. You guys have unlimited of that now, so that's really amazing. So these two are really most important for you to have on your extension toolbar. Specifically with read and write, you're going to have this purple puzzle piece with the R&W. If you don't, and it's not pushed out, you can go to the Chrome web store. Type in read and write, and you're going to want to make sure that it's the symbol for and not the wording. And it's going to pop up right here on your first extension. Go ahead and click that. And then since I do have it already on mine, it says, do you want to remove it? But here's where it's going to say, do you want to add it? Add to Chrome. Once you click on that, it's going to add it to here. And you'll see it being added, but you can't, once you click off of this, you won't see it again because you need to come into the gray puzzle piece, click on that, and make sure that it's blue pen.
So this has been an issue in the district last year. A lot of, I don't know why I'm echoing. People thought that they lost their toolbar and it just wasn't pinned. So if you see where Corey is right now, there's kind of, I call it the black puzzle piece because that's what it looks like. That's your extension manager. This might be review for a lot of people, but this kind of just popped up maybe 2 years ago. And anything that's pinned, you see, anything that's unpinned is hidden. It doesn't mean it's gone. So if you have a student where you think the toolbar has disappeared, chances are it's not pinned because it's pushed out and they can't delete it. If a student is using a device from home and not the district issued, then they have to do what Corey just did. They have to add the extension because if they're not on a district issued, it's not been pushed out. It's not being managed by us.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to click out of this. And I'm going to come into here and I'll use this right now as my space to kind of show you how you get it up and then where we're going to go to the settings. So if you see again that you go up to the extensions, you're going to click on the purple R&W puzzle piece and instantly your toolbar will pop up here. Now, where you're going to find the settings to manipulate different features is come right over here to these 3 dots and click on that and go down to settings. And this is where you can, if you do have a student and you need translation, this is where you can change the language. We have as many languages as Google has. We kind of share data with that. So this is where you're going to find all of your languages. And you can manipulate it for each student, or a student can. You can change the speed of the reading. And then you can also change the what do I want to say that
Voice.
is? Intonation, the voice.
Voice,
Yeah.
language if needed, but the voice, yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. And then you can also change like when you're typing and how it's bringing the information back to you. You can do single word or you can do each sentence, those types of things. So you can really manipulate that as well. You can, someone just asked me this the other day, can you lessen the amount of words that are predicted on the output? And you can. So if you have prediction and, students are typing, it's defaulted to 10, but you can change that to 5 if you would like. Check it. Screen masking, I'll show you that in a little bit. Language. And then this is where if you're working with Google Classroom, you're going to have to work with Google Classroom and our data desk, but you can actually turn on and turn off features for all of your students in the classroom. So this is really nice if you just want them to use, a certain amount of these icons, or maybe you're only teaching a couple at a time and you want them to use those and really, dive deeply into those before checking out any others. This is where you can just easily turn them on and off. And as you notice, when I turn that off, it leaves my toolbar or the student's toolbar.
That's another thing that's come up. Some people work with students and turn off a lot of tools. So if you think your student is missing a tool, chances are maybe someone that worked with them previously hid a tool. But like a good example here is if I'm working with a pretty high functioning high school RSP student, I'm going to probably turn off picture dictionary and a few of them because it's just they don't need it. Or if you have a highly distracted student and they're playing with them, you could come in and just reduce it to a few that they're really using. So you can do some individualization also, in addition to class settings.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to have a ton of links to resources and docs. This one is really cool. If you are questioning all those features on the toolbar, you can come out in here and just roll over them and click on them. They're going to tell you what this is, and they're going to be using words. It's going to be reading it out loud to you. So that's in here. We have a Let's Get It Read as well link. Just a simple one pager that can help kind of dive deeper into these specific icons. Are you going to be using this later for oh no, you won't. You won't be using this for your writing. Perfect. Okay. So with that, we are now going to go into kind of the meat of the reading presentation for my spot. And we're going to be working through a Google Doc, reading on the web, and then we're going to be doing just a really quick as well, reading a PDF. So I'm going to click on the Winn-Dixie. This is the doc. Can you see the doc? Did it pop up? Perfect. Okay. So again, what we're going to be doing is I'll come right up here to our extension toolbar, and I'm going to click. Oh, it already came up. But if it wasn't up, then I would click on the read and write toolbar, and here it pops up. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is what I say to do is to put up the picture dictionary and the dictionary so students can get clarification real time. If you roll over these features on the toolbar, it's going to pop up with what those features or icons are. So I'm going to go ahead and stick up the dictionary and put it aside, and the picture dictionary and put that aside. There's a couple things to notice with this is that you have this play button here that will play the definition. And then you'll also see several definitions. So if there is a word that has several definitions, this might need some clarification for your students. But I think that this is really kind of maybe a really good time to talk about multiple meaning words and those types of things. And then just some simple pictures as well. Can you hear that?
No, did you not share with sound?
I was going to say, I don't think I did.
You want to go back and reshare?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me click off.
So I'll just, the materials that we're going to kind of use today, we tried to pull from things that would be resources that might be used in a classroom. I'm seeing quite, I mean, there's a few new faces, but I am also seeing a lot of special education teachers. But I was hoping that we can share this also with more gen ed teachers who have not used Read and Write, because we've had it in the special education arena for, gosh, 8 years maybe. I mean, we've been started small with 150 licenses and had moved up to 2,000 over the last 8 years. So Winn-Dixie is a teacher college. It's in the mentor text for 3rd grade. It's a book that I see read in a lot of classrooms. I found it online as a PDF, and I was able to take the first chapter and copy the text and put it into this Google Doc. So Google Docs are the most accessible. They're the kind of the higher being, because even just right here, I could make the font size 18. I could double space it. I can zoom in. There's so many things that I can do for students with different learning needs. And then in addition, we're giving them this really super powerful toolbar that they can be doing what Corey's doing right now. So just be thinking, I want you to be thinking, like, are the resources that I'm asking my students to work with when they're digital, are they accessible? I mean, you should always be asking that.
Awesome. All right, so let's try this again. You can see Winn-Dixie on the screen again, right?
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. So if you press the play button.
Any distinct period in history or in a person's.
Awesome. All right, so it'll read, and you'll see that dual highlighting. That's really, there's a lot of it'll do it when I'm reading the actual text as well, but there's a lot of research around dual highlighting. And the sentence is always highlighted in yellow, and then the word being read is highlighted in blue. And that really deepens comprehension for students and accessing reading. Okay, so the next thing that we can put up here is, if you do have an EL student, you can stick up this translator, and this is a one-word translator. Depending on, my computer screen is really big, but I'll just set it aside over here. You'll notice that there are several different translations for the word chapter. Some we know, word for word can't be always translated. So they'll put any word that could be chapter or the word that we're trying to translate. You would change this translation for, say, Russian or whatever other language you have in your class by going to the setting menu here. So I'm going to click off of that for now, and we're going to go into our reading aloud. If you want students to read aloud,
Chapter 1.
you just have to click
My
on the
name
button.
is India Opal Buloni, and last summer my daddy.
So with this one, you are, if you just click the button and have it read, it's going to continue reading until you stop it. If you highlight a specific area, so say I highlighted just this paragraph, it'll read until it stops or until that paragraph's done. Again, you notice that dual highlighting, the whole sentence is in yellow, but the actual word being read is in blue. And then you have the pause button. If you pause it, it's going to pause right where it left off. And then all you have to do is hit the pause again, and it'll start right back up where you left off.
The preacher sent me to the store for a box of macaroni and cheese, some white rice.
And so notice the speed of her voice. You can, again, I showed you that in the settings up here. You can slow that down if you want, or you can speed it up. I use the thought of my daughter all the time, who, was an AP and had to have her novel, but she would speed up the words when she would also listen to it after, and she would speed it up just to kind of get that multiple outputs for her.
Can you look up a couple words so we can see different pictures? I don't know if you did, like, just
Oh,
in the
sure.
text.
No, I haven't done that yet. Okay, so that took off. So all you have to do for the dictionary, and we'll go into this in a later session, I think, but if you just want to click on a word, it'll bring up the different definition and then the different pictures that kind of go along with that.
And we wished years ago that we could add pictures to the dictionary, but you can't. So there'll be words that don't have pictures. So just you have to kind of let that wish go for right now.
All right, so that's the main thing I wanted to show you on the docs right now. I'm going to move over to the web unless you think I'm missing anything that
Show
we
the
were
mask,
talking.
show the masking on this because this is a lot of text.
Perfect. All right, so if you have a student with dyslexia or you have students who, just that's too many words on the page, here's what you can do. You can come right up here to the screen masking. You're going to click on that. And it's a window, or I even call it an underline, because you can change the opacity of not only the background color, but the window itself. Come right up here to the settings, click on that. And then you can change the color of either. This black and white, you would think that this was white, but it's not. It's actually like a filmy, I don't even know, cloud. But this black and white one is going to be your white. And then you can change the background to black. If you wanted the reading light, you can manipulate, again, the opacity of it, go whiter or darker light. You can change the reading light color. And then you can also change the height. So it really can be used in multiple ways as an underline if you want to make the light just dark. And then the background light, it can be used as that way. Or if you just want them to see a paragraph at a time, those types of things.
So we have some students who make that little bar black, and then they use it like you would use a ruler or a thing. So then the sentence they're reading is hanging out on top of the bar. And we also, if some of you have any reading background, color overlays have been around for a long time. So you can mimic the colors of the Orton Gillingham, like the yellow, and there's a blue and a purple. And so if you have a student who's already maybe using color overlays, you can do that. So that's just I have to tell you, this is one tool. When we share this with students, they like it a lot, especially students who have a hard time focusing when they're reading.
I knew this. Okay, good. Sometimes when I put one of them really dark, I can't see where I'm clicking. So.
No, I know. Yeah.
All right. So do you think that's good for the docs, Sandy?
Yeah. So, I mean, we just wanted to, this is a Google Doc, right? This is text that you could take an article from a web page, drop it in a Google Doc, and then manipulate it. You can take it from you can grab text from a PDF. Sometimes it's funky, but you can usually reformat it. You can create a doc. So, again, we're hoping that you're using, if you're at least second grade and up, you're using, Classroom and some use of Google Docs with your students. Yeah, I think that's good.
Awesome. Okay, so let's go to a web page now. Can you see my biodiversity, declining biodiversity? Awesome. We'll do the same thing. I'm coming right up here to the purple puzzle piece, and I'm going to stick it up at the top here. Again, notice that the arrows and the plus sign are new to this specific toolbar in web pages, and that's because you can move it around any way where you want. So I always like to stick it up at the top. Let's see what else is different. We have prediction. One thing that is on here that wasn't on docs is the hover speech. So it's a read aloud icon. And all you have to do is click on it, and then wherever you hover in the web page, it's going to start reading. So if I click on that, I'm going to come down to here.
A green sea turtle glides through the Great Barrier Reef.
Again, that's the dual highlighting. Blue is the word being read. Yellow is the sentence. As you notice too, all the other icons when you do the hover speech are blacked or grayed out, so you won't be able to use those. The only three icons that you can use in this is hover speech, the play,
Games,
the stop,
video,
the pause, and the stop button. Those are the only icons when you're using this specific feature.
You can see the masking tool again. So if you're on
a
a
green
web
sea
page,
turtle close up on me.
So yeah, so you have all the capabilities
Right.
that you did in the docs, right? So I would definitely put up my picture dictionary and my dictionary. We do have the screen masking as well. look, if you can see here that it grabbed my settings from Docs and it pulled it over to web page, so that it does kind of that toolbar settings, whatever you have on those will keep throughout the platforms.
You need to remember to change that before you sign off today, because that's going to drive you crazy next time you pull
I
it out.
know, right? I can't see it. But those are really, you can do those same applications in the web page. So I think that's really important to know. Again, you have that one word translation. And since we already kind of highlighted it all in the docs, I'll just show you, that's pretty much it for web pages. We're going to kind of hold off on these other really lovely buttons, which are some of my favorite for, this is just an intro. So our next 2 sessions, we're going to be diving into some of the more meaty features of the toolbar.
So one thing I just want to say when we're there, because we did have an EL question in the chat. So
good.
If this was a web page in Spanish, you can change the text reader to read aloud in Spanish with different Spanish accents. So this is not an English only tool. So kind of just let that gel in your mind and think about that. So if you have a student who learns in Spanish or a different language and might be doing research for a paper, they could actually, we're talking about input and output today, right? So they could be getting information in their native language and then trying to use the different tools to turn in something in English, right? So it's really flexible.
For sure.
Can you repeat how you did that, or how will it work for the student to read that in another language?
You would go to the settings and you would change the language. So they would have to be, they'd have to be savvy enough to be able to toggle back and forth, right? Because sometimes they're going to need it in English. So there's languages, there's a multitude of languages that can read aloud.
Okay. Will the text appear in the language chosen?
It doesn't translate it. It's going to read something that's in another language.
Oh, I see.
It's not, you're not, So, I mean, if a student is researching biodiversity, but they are a Spanish speaker and they're doing their research in Spanish, they could be reading those articles in Spanish and then doing whatever their mind does to get that assignment done. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is a way that you can translate it.
Yeah, I mean, you could take something and translate. Yeah, there's other tools in Google you can take a whole Google Doc and translate it. You can take a web page. There's lots of other tools, but I've had students who actually work at home in their native language. So they have to shift, right? Then they come back to school. And if they're reading a poem for English, they want that read in English. If you have a Spanish reader on an English poem, it's going to butcher it, right? It's going to read it with a Spanish accent. So we've had that happen too. It's kind of hilarious.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome. Okay. So then let's just head over to our PDF reader. So you guys have, by the 18th hour on our last day of September, you guys purchased an unlimited Orbit Note subscription, which is our PDF annotation, PDF reader. There's a ton you can do with this. One of my favorite strategies to show the toolbar on is close reading, and close reading and our PDF Orbit Note just goes beautifully hand in hand together. So you would have a PDF you're going to open with the Orbit Note app. You're going to click on that. And there's a couple things that Sandy and I just wanted to talk to you about. Again, here's my toolbar. It is going to look pretty different now than the other, because we have to do different things on the actual doc than we could in web pages or Google Docs. We have a ton of different stuff here, but I just want to show you the reader. Click to speak. Okay, so this is a different one. That's not what I want.
It's kind of like Hover almost.
Yeah. So this one is the play and the stop. There's no pause. Notice that. And something like this that's a graphic or a graphic organizer or a matrix or something like that, it may be kind of wonky. And so the reason behind that, Sandy and I were chatting about that is because there's alt text behind it, or those those specific boxes might read a little wonky. So I'm going to go ahead and you'll notice I'm going to try and highlight this, and I'm going to come over to play.
Overall, I wrote a story of an important moment. It read like a story, even though it might be a true account. White small square, white small square, white small square. I wrote a story that had tension, resolution, and realistic characters. And
So, so notice that it brought in that white small square, and I think specifically, our developers do that because we are very, very huge, obviously, on accessibility, and so pulling in like what that is and what it stands for students who are visually impaired, those types of things. That's why it's there. We aren't going to get into a ton of the others, but just notice, you have this dictionary here, you have the picture dictionary. You also have the one word translator and the screen masking.
So we kind of wanted, this is actually from a 5th grade teacher at one of our sites. This was posted to her classroom last week. So this is a TC, a teacher college writing rubric. And I just wanted you guys to see that. So in the hierarchy of reading, Google Docs is the easiest. Or I could even say like a book, but a book's not easy if you have a learning disability or a language barrier, but the Google Doc, then we showed you the web, which that was a pretty friendly web page for students, but that our students sometimes get to pages where there's lots of stuff bouncing around and it's too hard and there's sidebars, and PDF is challenging. Some PDFs are locked and they're inaccessible, so we're going to talk about that later, but I thought this was just a good example of, even though this is a table, a student who struggles to read could still use the toolbar to be able to have the rubric criteria read to them, because this might have been inaccessible if this was just posted to them in a way that they could never have it read out loud, and they can see what they're being asked and what the end product is supposed to include, and do that on their own at home while they're kind of self-assessing their writing.
Yeah. And just one thing to note, if the Winn-Dixie passage was not in Google Docs, but was in PDF, we would be able to do exactly the same thing if it were a PDF through Orbit Note. So just remember that too. With a lot more like handwriting, there's definitely a lot you can do with a PDF. If it were the same story, the same passage, we could access it through Orbit Note just as easily as if it were a doc in your drive. Okay, Sandy, is it your turn?
I think so. So that's kind of reading. Again, just make sure that you file away docs, web, PDF, right? Because those are the 3 main digital formats that we're helping students access reading through. And then I just wanted to talk a little about writing. This is, as an AT specialist, written output is probably on every student's IEP or 504 plan, right? They're struggling to write, they're struggling with either the physical act of it or the motivation or getting the ideas organized, or a plethora of reasons why. So using technology to assist with the writing process has been something that I've been passionate about since I taught 8th grade language arts. So this is that was a long time ago. So this has been something I've been thinking about for a long time. So let me share my screen and my sound. And oh shoot, what are you seeing?
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Let me stop again and do, okay, let me do it again. Share screen. I'm going to
do you want to?
Okay. Can you see mine now? Can you see the writing process? Okay, sorry. I have 2 windows, so I'm going to look like I'm like staring off into space, but I'm just looking at a different monitor. All right, so this is a help document from Text Help that I really love, and I actually use this a lot when I'm working with families and trying to help parents and guardians kind of help their students. And I've done some training at some elementary sites, but this is kind of the writing process. And to me, the writing process is really become kind of an iterative circle of things. You're going back and forth. So when I write, I dictate a ton now. I very rarely type anymore. And so when I'm working with a student, I'm pre-writing, it kind of gives you some ideas. You can brainstorm. You could brainstorm with typing. I could brainstorm on paper. I could draw a picture. I could be using a story tree. I could be using speech to text. I can be using all these different things. And we'll talk about some of the highlighters and ways those can help. And then you're getting a draft down. So you're elaborating and adding more. And so there's tools that can help with that. And then you're revising and you're listening to what you wrote, and then you're making improvements or enhancements or adding more details. So again, there's a whole bunch of different tools. So I mean, when I'm working with a student and they're struggling, I'm like, just let it out. Like, just say it. I actually say, just kind of vomit it out onto the paper. Just say your ideas, right? And it's on the paper then, and they're usually super impressed. We can move things around later. It's digital. It's awesome. What Google Docs has opened up writing for so many students that spend time erasing one word. I mean, everyone's probably had a student that, you know, sorry, my phone's ringing. You know, just they're stuck on the spelling, or they just that one sentence and you don't get anything. So I really like this handout and editing, that you just kind of keep going back, and then you might go up and add more, and then publishing it, which is, it's much cleaner, obviously, if it's a Google Doc, because they can change the font, put the title and things like that, share it back to you in classroom, print it out, different things. So this is a resource that we'll share with you. So what I wanted to share is just, again, going back to that Winn-Dixie, these were just some kind of literature questions that I found when I was doing some research for, if you've ever, I think Minda from Ohlone and I did a workshop years ago using the Winn-Dixie as an example of the text. So these are just some questions that you could do for a group or things like that. So from that, I just kind of, if I scroll down here, I said, okay, this could possibly be a Google Doc that I might post to my students as a reading log entry or an assignment for the week. So I just took one of the questions above, like this one, for a variety of reasons. You know, she feels like an outsider. Describe a situation when you felt like an outsider. So right here, I highlighted this, describe the situation, and I just added a comment. So here I'm actually just using comments in Google Docs. You know, try to include, I have a typo there, I just did this right before. Try to include details about how you felt, the setting. This should be at least 2 paragraphs, right? So I've added like a little extra tip for the student. I very quickly inserted a table. You know, so if they wanted to say like me, something about me, I can come up here, and here is on the toolbar. I have my toolbar open. I'm going to dictate. I had to move schools when I was 7, and it was really hard to be in a new classroom. So I just got an idea down there, and then Opal, you know, they could put down, so they could start to think about and brainstorm how they felt in a situation where they were uncomfortable, and then trying to make that connection to text with what happened in Winn-Dixie. You also can just come in here, and this is the speech, and this is the same as Google Voice typing. So when you're in a Google Doc, you're really using it. It's just easier for students to come up here, but you might have a student who didn't have the toolbar before, premium, and they might have been getting to voice typing in a different way, but it's fine. Either way, it's going to bring up that red microphone. So if I come in here, this is just a Google Doc, and I want to try some word prediction, I'm going to click on the second tool. So the first one is grammar checker, grammar and spelling checker. So you don't really need to be adding more. They have this, and they also have just Google has its own kind of, you start to see like, you know, did you mean this? Or you'll start to see, you know, did you mean to say this, and things like that. So between those 2 tools, there's a lot of grammar and spelling checking going on automatically when you're in a Google Doc. You don't really need to bring in another extension. So if I turn on word prediction is something that's been around for a long time. In the past, in the special ed arena, we bought Co-Writer from Don Johnson. Text Help and Don Johnson have actually combined now. It is really super successful for those students who just like it's often spelling or just that next word, but you have to know what you're going to write. You have to get the first couple letters. It's not, I always tell the students, it's not a mind reader. It can't get into your brain and guess what you're going to say. But like, you know, I am and I can hover over. How come it's not reading it? It should be reading it.
It should be. I think that's one of the new.
So I am struggling. So I've got two things here. So I just want you to look at this for a second. That little gray width that's right here, this is just Google Docs. So Google Docs is actually built in some very simple word prediction into it. And then you also have the width coming from the text help word prediction. So I'm struggling with, you know, being a new, so I'm typing and I'm using it back and forth. I have 5 words right here and they're pretty big font, pretty large font. So I just want to show you real quick. I'm going to turn off my word prediction, and Corey showed you this over. I'm going to go over to my settings. And the second one on the list is prediction. So you can go up to 10 and you can make the font smaller. You can also move where the prediction is, but follow the cursor is usually a preferred right there where you're writing. And I'm going to save that. So now I'm struggling with being a new, I don't have it on. I'm going to turn it back on. So usually it hovers and speaks student, and then you just click on the word and then it puts it in. So that's word prediction, and that works for some students. It works for some students who struggle with language, who speak a different language. They might use that. It works really well with students who really who kind of know what they want to say and they know how to start the word, but they're not sure how to spell the rest of it. And it just kind of gives them, or some students use it as a spell checker. Like I have a lot of students who start typing the word and then they eyeball it spelled correctly, and then they type it. And if they don't have the ability to type it, they could just click on it and it will automatically insert it in. So it works different ways. So if you haven't used word prediction, I would highly suggest you guys, if you can all have access to the premium toolbar, I would highly suggest that you just turn on open up a Word, a Google Doc, and see how it feels and how it works, because it's really hard to show a student how to use it if you've never used it, because it is a little bit awkward and it's not perfect, but it can, for certain, I always say a small percentage of students that I work with, it is life-changing. It just opens the door to writing for them. Because they were really struggling with they were so down on their writing ability. So right there, I showed you, I'm gonna hover over this one. I showed you, they call talk and type, which we can call dictation. We can also call it speech to text, right? So you're using your voice to get words onto the paper. And then we also used word prediction. And again, I always encourage students to come back and listen.
For a variety of reasons, Opal
to what they wrote, because they almost always say, oh, I didn't mean that, or I forgot a word there, or that sounds weird. Like, and so then they start self-editing and adding, or it's a one big massive run on and they hear it because it's just kind of like, and they're like, I think I need some punctuation in there. And so I was like, well, let's slow it down and really listen to where you would pause or where you would add that punctuation. So when we talk about editing, even having students listen to each other's writing, right? So you could just swap Chromebooks and I could listen to your paragraph, you could listen to mine, I could give you some comments over here on the side. I think you need some punctuation here. So you could use this for peer editing also. And then the other thing is with the toolbar, we have this voice memo. So you can add a little comment. So this was another activity. I grabbed the create a handbook and I can just put a little, hey there, I want you to have fun with your dog care handbook. This could be digital, like Google Slides, or some sort of a book using Google Docs, or if you want to use paper. So you could add anything over there, like a little your voice that just kind of giving them some more detail. I have a lot of teachers who are using this for math because they're giving the students a little clue for, hey, you might want to get out your rods here, or, get some pennies out. So we're going to do this activity. So you can give them a little tip on how to get going with that activity. And it's not something they have to read. They're listening to it, and it's you or someone else, in the class that could even do that. So
Sandy, I'm
that's a
giving
lot.
you, an 8-minute time check.
Okay. All right. I got to go faster then. I'm talking too much. Sorry. Okay. This is a handout that we're going to share with you. Actually opened, it's easier to see here. This is something that we got when we through the 18 network over the years. When you're teaching or working with students on dictation, kind of to think it in your head. I often have students say it to me before they turn on the microphone and then record it, check it, listen back, fix it, and it just keeps going and around and around. So we have some other resources, and this kind of goes through and has some clues, some little tips on ways that you can use dictation and technology to kind of improve the way that students can use their voice to write. What else do I have? Okay, I had one other example I wanted to share with you. I'm huge into sentence starters and frames, or close with a Z, however you want to say it. So this is kind of a word problem, paragraph. You could use these tools. I could just take this and say, I was asked to figure out the circumference of a swimming pool in a backyard. Did it do it? Yeah. And I can get rid of that. Right? So there I just wrote some pretty big words, and I didn't have to know how to spell circumference or backyard, right? So I've created the frames, and then they're going to fill it in with their information. And I have some different graphic organizers that I'll share with you. So and the way that I was trained to do this was to take like an exemplar and then take out the content, but leave the transitions and the main meat. And people say, well, that's cheating. Well, it's not. You're going to be amazed, because every student's end product looks different because they all did it differently and they did different things, and they'll change some of the transitions. So you can just see, like, I was given this, and I was given a picture of a pool, and then I had to count the tiles, and then I had to multiply that. And so they would it's hard because they have these lines. So you kind of need to train students, but you kind of need those lines so that they can visually see that it's going to be a paragraph, right? So that's the one thing I don't love, because if you take those out and do like ... then they need to just get rid of the ... So I'm just kind of taking a really nice word problem, and I've kind of sucked out the part that I'm going to be grading, and I've left the frame there, and then I'm letting them go and share what they know. And that's what I want to know anyway. I don't really care as long as they have all the elements that I'm going to be grading on that. So we'll share that with you. And another resource that we'll share with you, and I actually just sent this out to a lot of my my special ed sites that I support. This was shared at a workshop a few years ago. Here's just a bunch of graphic organizers that you can make copies of and use to kind of do what I just did, to help with writing, getting your ideas organized, and then from there taking it into a more written product. So I don't think we have anything else. Should I just go to the slides? Where are we?
Yeah, I think we're pretty good. The exit ticket, which is we have a good amount of time for
Okay, so
that.
I'm gonna put that in. Should I put that in the chat right now?
Yeah, and I was thinking, if we could revisit just our guiding questions, just thinking about how you can utilize this in your classroom.
Here, I'll stop sharing. I'll stop sharing, and then you can share, okay? And then I'll put that in the. So there were no questions, Karen, Mary? Nothing else came up? Okay.
I actually have a question.
Yeah, so just thinking.
Okay, so we have a question. Wait, one question.
I'm sorry, it might be a little lame, but I was just wondering when the voice, is there an option for a male voice?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, for sure.
Can you show me where to do that, please, if it's possible?
Sure.
If we still have time.
Yeah, if you come over here to these three dots, click on that, go to settings. Yeah. Not language, but speech.
Okay.
And then you'll have, there's.
Oh, there you
female,
go. Thank you.
male. Yeah, there's some different. And you
Okay.
notice that they're like Finnish or French, like they'll take on those accents.
Okay. Thanks.
And you're welcome.
All right, so
Okay.
I put the exit ticket in the chat. It's very short.
Perfect.
And this is a paid workshop. So those of you that are here, we're tracking the attendance in the Zoom registration and also with the exit ticket. We don't know how we're paying you yet, so don't do anything yet. If we can pay you, then we'll take care of it. If we need you to do a time card, you will get an email from us.
Perfect.
It's all kind of, we're learning this fall. There's a lot of new folks.
Lots of learning. Perfect.
Did you want to go back to
There's-
these? Or did you already go to these?
Just think about these. We can have them up. I think what would be really good is just to give you a little preview of, you know, what we're going to be doing in the other two sessions. And they're really just going deeper into these icons we didn't do, like the highlights and what we can do with highlights and pulling them out. We're going to do on a web page how you can pull out full vocabulary lists just by clicking on a word. I love the practice reading aloud and the simplify page. There's all these things that, you know, are just going to be really helpful for you and your students accessing text. So on the web page, these kind of icons on the right hand side are really like my heart of hearts for features on the toolbar. So I'm excited to show you guys these in the next coming session.
So can you go back to the slideshow and let's just show them. Maybe we should just post the slideshow in the chat right now so that they can
Yes,
have
I
it.
have it ready. I'll post
Okay,
it.
so just click through here. So there's a lot at the end. So let's
Did
go
you get
back.
that, guys?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
So those are the slides. So if you want to grab those and just open up a tab, and then Corey, if you could just go down after the exit ticket. So here are kind of most of the resources that we quickly shared with you. So you have the PDFs or the links, an overview, things you might share with students. I like to have some of the overview guides actually in plastic sleeves printed out in the classroom so that students can have them. The Let's Get It Read, the things that I shared with you about speech to text. There's some voice commands. So if you have a real savvy dictator, you can do things like insert bulleted list. I mean, you can really do a lot with voice typing. There's some the writing process one, that graphic organizers, and then we didn't talk about the high yield strategies, but I would highly look at that. It's going to basically talk about all we talked about, those strategies that are really the most powerful in helping students with their input and output. Perfect. And then Corey added some other read and write, like, you want to go talk about some of the other ones there at the end?
Yeah, I just added, there's two here that are all about, you know, this is what icons kind of help with specific areas of education. You'll see ELL here, there's special education, dual language on this specific doc as well. And then since we've all worked probably a lot with EL students, I've added some GLAD strategies, if you guys know GLAD strategies, as well as some other strategies that really work well with students with disabilities, but really kind of the gamut. So really strategies we've probably heard of and maybe utilized as well. And I tried to connect some of the toolbar features with how we can, you know, make it more accessible when we're working online. So there's a ton of resources here as well with a click. You can go into this and see, but this is a close reading strategy I like to use with the toolbar. So that is all there for you guys to peruse. It's 4:31. Yep. Any other little thoughts on, you want to kind of
just everyone do the exit ticket, make sure you jot down the next two workshops. This is not an only special ed resource this year, so please talk at your sites. Those of you that are at sites where you have gen ed teachers also, we'll share this recording. We're willing to work with sites as best we can. We are a small team, but I'm also working with Laurie Roberts. This also the TTLs at sites are going to be learning more about this. So ask questions. If that's all you have, ask them, because now's the time to ask them.